Florida Joint Center for Citizenship presents Florida's Uniformed Ballot Structure, Primary and General Election Ballots. This resource is provided by the Florida Supervisors of Elections and the Florida Joint Center for Citizenship at the Lou Frye Institute at the University of Central Florida. Both organizations strive to support civic education and promote the development of enlightened, responsible, and actively engaged citizens. Being an informed citizen is hard work. After all, there's a lot to know about Florida's uniformed ballot structure. So the question is, how does understanding Florida's uniform ballot structure benefit you? After watching this video, you will be able to understand the importance of uniformity in election ballot design and explain the guarantees it provides Florida voters as they cast their ballots. Let's get started. Voting in Florida is much like voting in the other 49 states. To be eligible to vote in Florida, you must be 18 years old, be a citizen of the United States, and a resident of the state of Florida. It is important to note that one may lose their voting rights if they are a convicted felon or have been declared mentally incompetent by a court. There are generally two types of elections in Florida: a primary election and a general election. A primary election is one in which candidates for office seek the nomination of a political party for that office. As an example, before being elected governor of Florida, a candidate first runs in a party primary election. When a candidate wins that election, they become the political party's nominee for governor of Florida. Florida has a closed primary system. This means only registered members of a political party may vote in that party's primary election. So if we look at the two major political parties, registered Republicans may vote in the Republican primary, while registered Democrats may vote in the Democratic primary. The same is true for the minor parties. Just because a candidate wins in a primary election does not mean they automatically win the office for which they are running. Typically, other political parties will have candidates of their own running for the same office. So to determine which candidate is preferred by Florida's registered voters, a general election is held. Unlike a primary election, all registered voters, whether they are members of a political party or not, are eligible to vote in a general election. Let's check in. Question: what is the biggest difference between a closed primary election and a general election in Florida? Answer: to vote in a primary election, you must be a registered voter and a registered party member. To vote in a general election, you just have to be a registered voter. Well done. Now that we know a key difference between a primary election and a general election, let's review some of the basics when it comes to a general election. During a general election, all candidates for contested public offices will appear on the ballot. This includes offices that have no party affiliation, like the school board or judicial races. However, school board and judicial races are often decided in a primary election since they are nonpartisan. But if no candidate receives a majority of the vote, a runoff election occurs during the general election. The candidate who receives the most votes in the general election wins that office. Sometimes circumstances exist when registered voters are asked to vote on state constitutional amendments, county tax initiatives, or other political questions that the voters are required to decide under Florida's Constitution, state statute, or county charter. These are called public measures, and they directly follow the names of the candidates for nonpartisan district and special district offices on the ballot. The type of election taking place determines the type of ballot supervisors of elections must create. If a primary election is taking place, a primary ballot will be used. If a general election is taking place, then the general election ballot will be used. How these two ballots are designed is determined by State Rule 1S 2.032. This rule tells supervisors of elections what items must appear on the ballot and how these items must be ordered on the ballot. This is called uniform design, and it guarantees all election ballots in Florida look the same. So no matter which county you live in, you know the voters in South Florida will have a similarly structured ballot to voters in North Florida. Let's check in. Question: what does uniform design guarantee? Answer: uniform design guarantees all election ballots in Florida look the same. Well done. Now that we understand the main benefit of uniform design, let's examine its effect on the construction of a primary and general election ballot. Let's begin by looking at a 2020 sample primary ballot. First, by law, the type of ballot, date of election, political party, and county are listed at the very top of the primary ballot. Typically, a voting official will confirm that the appropriate primary ballot has been given to you, but knowing this information appears at the very top is helpful. Second, and perhaps most importantly, the ballot instructions follow this information. Be sure to read these, as they explain how to fill in the oval and what to do if you make a mistake. Some good advice to follow on election day is always read the instructions. Third, the official ballot language is English, but in Florida, all ballots are in both English and Spanish. English comes first, followed by Spanish on every ballot. This is so as many registered voters as possible can understand the process required for casting votes. Fourth, all the contest titles are ordered by federal, state, county, and city office that are up for election. These contests are followed by special district, municipal, and nonpartisan contests, like election for school board members. Remember, since this is a primary ballot, every candidate listed, except those listed for a nonpartisan contest, is either a major party or minor party candidate. The ballot you receive is based on your registered party affiliation. Also, notice the consistency in margin placement, font style and size, and use of capital and lowercase letters in the names and party affiliations of the candidates. These legal requirements help to make the structure of the ballot uniformed. Even the placement of the ovals, called voter targets, is prescribed by law. They must be placed to the left of the name of the candidate and must be in the oval shape. Now, let's look at a 2020 sample general election ballot. Right off, you will notice this ballot has the same uniform structure as the primary ballot. Like the primary ballot, the general election ballot also identifies at the top of the ballot the type of ballot a registered voter is receiving, date the election is held, and the county where the voting is taking place. Unlike the primary ballot, there is no party reference at the top of a general election ballot. However, to the right of the candidate's name, an abbreviation of the party name will appear in all capital letters. The official ballot language is still English and continues to be listed first. Remember, in Florida, all ballots are written in English and Spanish. Like on a primary election ballot, all the contest titles remain by federal, state, and county office that are up for election, followed by special district, municipal, and nonpartisan contests, and any public measure registered voters must decide. Further, consistency is the same in margin placement, font style and size, use of capital and lowercase letters in the names and party affiliations of the candidates, and the voting targets. How this ballot differs with the primary ballot is it is not exclusive to either the Republican or Democratic parties. All candidates for public office appear on it. Additionally, the placement of the party candidates is determined by the party of Florida's sitting governor. As the current governor is a Republican, Republican Party candidates are placed at the top of all election contests in which a Republican is running. This is per state statute. Since Republicans have won the governor's mansion since 1998, they come first on the general election ballot, followed by the other major party and minor parties. Let's recap what we've learned. There are generally two types of elections in Florida, a primary election and a general election. A primary election is one in which candidates for office seek the nomination of a political party for that office. At a general election, all candidates for public office appear on it, and uniform design guarantees all election ballots in Florida are consistent and constructed in the same way. Uniformity in ballot construction across the state of Florida allows for consistency in ballot creation. So no matter which ballot is used, registered voters can be confident their ballots will look the same from one election to the next across the state of Florida. A special thank you to the Orange County Supervisor of Elections Office for providing the sample ballots used throughout this instructional video. Thanks for watching. This video produced for instructional purposes by the Florida Joint Center for Citizenship at the Lou Fry Institute at the University of Central Florida. Video produced and edited by the Florida Joint Center for Citizenship staff.